Hey everyone, this is Chris back with the Bimmer Barn, and in today's episode, I'm going to be showing you guys how to remove the front axle shafts from your all-wheel drive E46. This is going to work for sedans or wagons, and it's a little bit easier than you would think, but we do have to use a special tool in order to get these axles out. I'm going to be showing you guys exactly the tool that I'm using. It's a fraction of the cost of the special tool from BMW that they recommend that you buy or use, which is like $600. But this I got off of Amazon, and it's going to help us remove the axles really easily. Now we're removing the axles because we need to change the oil pan gasket, and you cannot do that without first doing this. So we'll get the axles out. In the next episode, I'm going to show you guys how to change the oil pan gasket, and then I'll show you guys how to install the new axle shafts in a different video because that uses a different special tool as well. So I've got everything we need on the table right behind me. Let's take a look at the tools we're going to be doing, and then let's get right to work. So here we have our special tool still in the box actually. Let me go ahead, grab a knife, and pop this baby open. So here it is unboxed. I forget how many pieces this is, but this is one of the larger kits, and you pay a little bit more, but you also get more. So not only do we have a slide hammer, but we're also going to now have some axle pullers and some axle pushers. So what I'm planning on using is either one of these or this thing right here in combination with this pusher, and I'm hoping that this is going to help us push the axle through the hub, and then that way we'll be able to remove the hub of the car in order to do our oil pan job. So really this is it. Let me go ahead and let's pull off a wheel from the car, and then we're going to see if one of these is going to help us do the job. I think we have to remove some other things first, like the lower control arms and such. So let's get under that car and let's get straight to work. So we've got the wheel off, and I just want to go through the procedure, which is basically going to be removing everything from this axle right here. So the brake rotor, the caliper has to come off. We're going to paint it just like the rear ones. Then we have to disconnect the strut, or at least loosen it, so the clamp down here that holds the strut on. Need to remove the sway bars. All the sensors here need to be disconnected. And then we need to get the outer tie rod for the steering, and then the control arm. I think we're going to get it from the bushing and from the other bushing right here that's on the chassis. So it'll come with the assembly, and yeah, that'll allow us to get the axle off while we install this tool on here. So this is just a couple of the pieces from that toolkit that I was just showing you, and it's going to use the wheel bolts to bolt up to the axle right here, and then we're going to tighten this big bolt right here, and that's going to force this axle through. Obviously there's already a nut on there, so we need to spin that nut off. That shouldn't be a problem with the impact, but like I said, once we get the nut off, we'll put this on there and hopefully push the axle out, and at the same time this whole assembly is going to come off of the car. Now we have all these parts, suspension parts, in the back of the car waiting to be installed. So that's going to be really nice, but that's going to be in a future episode. So for now, I'm just going to focus on showing you guys how to remove the axle so you can get the CV shafts right here, and that's basically going to let you do all other sorts of work on the car, like changing out the differential or changing the oil pan, which are going to be jobs that we have to do here soon. So let's go ahead and focus on this. What I'm going to start by doing, I think, is removing the brake calipers, and then we'll probably do the outer tie rod, like I said, try to get everything off here, and hopefully in a second we'll be putting on this tool to push the axle through. Well, it looks like we're not going to be able to get the brake caliper off because while we got one bolt loose, this one right here, the upper one, the lower one, it kind of started to round off a little bit. So I don't think we're going to be able to remove it until we get the whole axle off. And then I'll probably try using the impact on it directly overhead, and I'm sure it'll come right out. But for now, what we're going to do is we're going to move to the outer tie rod right here. So that's an 18 millimeter. We're going to hit that with the impact. Hopefully get the tie rod out pretty easily, and then we have to get the two bushings, so the inner ball joint here and this bushing loose so that it'll come with the axle here basically. Last thing would be the strut, and then we should be able to put the tool on. There we go. The control arm is removed from the subframe, so it's just attached to this axle right here, and then the outer tie rod is disconnected to the axle. We haven't touched the bolt holding the strut to the axle yet, but we're gonna leave it tight right now because it's holding this whole assembly up, and the axle is right behind it right here. So I think that there's plenty of room, plenty of play in this, that we're gonna be able to get the axle off and probably pull it out without even taking the strut off, but we'll see. Let's go ahead and get the pusher tool, and that's this thing right here. It's gonna go and thread in, and it's hopefully gonna push this axle right out. Well, there we are. I guess if you want to remove the axles, you don't even need to remove the strut and the hub assembly up here. All you really need to do is disconnect the control arm, and that gives you enough room to slide this thing out. So it'd be the same procedure for both sides of the car, and it's going to work for all E46 all-wheel drive models, whether they're wagon or sedan. Now, obviously, we have to install the new ones, and we actually have to use a different tool to install the new axle. So stay tuned for an upcoming episode where we're going to be installing the new axles, and I'll show you exactly how that's done. But for now, I hope you guys learned something about removing these things, and it's a little bit easier than I thought. So I'm going to continue removing some of the suspension bits here. We'll have more videos. The next one that we're going to be doing is going to be about dropping the oil pan. So stay tuned for that. But for now, I hope you guys enjoyed this one.
So that's going to conclude our video for today. I hope you guys enjoyed watching, and it was a lot easier than I would have expected to remove those axles. I thought that we were going to have to pull the entire hub and strut assembly off of the car in order to get the axles out, but it turns out that you don't need to do that. You can actually just slip it through. So we only did one side, we did the driver's side, but it's going to be really similar to do the passenger side. The only difference is that the axle on the passenger side of the car is a little bit longer, so you might have to do a little extra prying in order to get the room to pull it out, but same deal, you shouldn't have to remove the strut in order to get that thing out. So I can't wait to get the oil pan down and then the new axles in. I think the car is going to drive a ton better with all these new parts and no more oil leaks from the front. And I'm really excited because we're going to be concluding this build pretty quickly here. So go ahead and like the video if you haven't yet. Leave a comment down below what you think of the axle removal. And subscribe to the channel if you're new and you haven't yet. As always, I hope everyone has an awesome day, and we'll see you next time.